While the war in Ukraine continues and fighting is still going on, people in the occupied regions are trying to return to normal life. Those whose houses were not destroyed completely are trying to prepare for winter. People are installing broken windows and restoring roofs. Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine has passed the bill on compensation for war-damaged housing only in the first reading so far. That means for now people have to rebuild their homes on their own. This is UA, the day that we survived. Ukrainian journalists have come together to create it with real people who share their stories about experiencing the war. This episode is about Repair Together, a volunteer initiative that unites young people who go to the villages that have suffered from the fighting and restore them. There have been several trips like that to the Chernihiv region. Here, in the villages of Yahidne and Lukashivka, people have lived for several weeks under occupation and famine. Volunteer Dmitro Kirpa talks about how the initiative came up.
A month or so ago, after the Ukrainian army liberated the Chernihiv region from the Russian occupation, we went straight to Chernihiv to see what was happening. And we stopped nearby at the village of Yahidne. About a fifth of all the houses were destroyed. Not a single building remained undamaged. We talked to locals and heard horrific stories. All local people were gathered at the school and kept in the basement for almost the entire 26-day occupation. And for another 3 to 4 days, the village was on the battle line. We saw how the locals, just released from the occupation, returned to their completely or partially destroyed homes. My friends and I decided we could fix some of the problems they face, cleaning the territory, providing help to the poorest families, and repairing windows and roofs. In some buildings, the walls began to rot because roofs were damaged. That's what we also decided to fix. Unfortunately, the tool sheds burnt down, and everything that didn't burn was stolen. So people didn't even have tools, shovels and rakes. We decided to buy it all for a certain number of people. We selected 11 families to begin with. We're going to replace window glass for them, repair roofs, and do some interior work. We have already bought tools for them. But there are hundreds or thousands of such households, and we can only help 11 families a month. So we hope we'll make a deal out of this and raise more funds to speed everything up, to help 30 to 50 people a month instead of 11. At least this is the plan.
We recorded volunteers during their trip to Lukashivka. While 100 volunteers are helping to dismantle the ruins, a construction team is working in a nearby Yahidne. It is difficult to determine who needs help first.
Some people have more money, some people have less, but they share the same problems. Well, we communicate intuitively with people. We learn something about the life of these families, and we have a certain rubric. For example, if people live in a village permanently. There are, for example, some residents who only live here during the summer, or people who live in Chernihiv and have a house here and visit occasionally. Our priority is people who need help here and now. The second criterion is age and ability. Several times we started cleaning and saw the whole bunch of young people living at a place and not cleaning up their own yard for 2 or 3 weeks. So we decided not to help them, pay attention to the locals who have health problems, the elderly, or those who live alone.
Young men and women spent the whole day picking up garbage near destroyed houses. They have lunch near the church, brewing filter coffee on burners. And in the evening, in the neighboring Yahidne, they gather near the burnt house of culture, together with locals, and listen to a performance of Vasily Baidak, a comedian who is also volunteering here. It is a questionable matter whether it is appropriate to joke in such places. But don't people have the right for joy after surviving the occupation? There are 8 people in the organizing team. Everyone is responsible for their direction. The initiative has raised money from donations, but seeks to reach international revenues. According to Dmitro's observations, there are no food problems in the liberated villages. The most important thing is the repair and restoration of houses. Irina is doing marketing. She had left Kyiv at the beginning of the invasion, but has returned and now she is helping others.
Взагалі я з Західної України, з Трускавця, але живу в Києві, так.
I'm from Western Ukraine, from Truskavets, but I live in Kyiv. And during the most challenging times, I drove to my hometown, where the displaced people moved to. As soon as I saw people self-organizing and working together, I decided to join them upon returning to Kyiv. And it happened. It's good because, on one hand, I helped rebuilding Ukraine. And on another hand, it's fun. There are great people and great music. It is such a perfect mix. It's hard to enjoy life right now, right? But I think it's cool when you help and have fun.
Просто так. А коли ти допомагаєш і отримуєш задоволення, таке поєднання – це дуже круто, як на мене.
Victoria was in Peru at the beginning of the war. She had absolutely no doubt what to do next. She immediately returned to Ukraine.
У нас була подорож в Південній Америці, ми запланували її.
We had a trip to South America. We planned to stay there for 5-6 months. We only managed to stay for a month. The war began and we realized that everything was over. Our trip was over and we must return home. First of all, probably because I didn't see it all with my own eyes, I didn't have to flee Kyiv under bombs. I watched it on the news and had a real feeling that I could no longer travel.
Я не можу подорожувати, ти вже нічого.
You don't see anything around you anymore. The goal was to go back and help. Plus, I have a background in the field of public organizations during the Maidan, so at the time like this, sitting somewhere under a palm tree was not an option at all.
Такий момент десь сидіти під пальмою, це взагалі було не варіант.
The first tolokas were held in the Hostomel animal shelter. Toloka is a traditional Ukrainian gathering for accomplishing a large amount of communal work. The animals in Hostomel were left homeless. The cages had to be repaired. So 30-40 people came to help. Afterwards, it was decided to help people with housing in the Chernihiv region. Every time more and more volunteers gather.
Тому що в людей дуже великий запит. Я так припускаю через те, що
There is a very high desire to volunteer among people. Everyone feels this desire to be useful to the country, especially when there is not enough money. Or they have already invested their resources but still want to help. And this is a convenient opportunity. You come for a couple of days, you just do something useful as a group and see the result. Maybe I still feel guilty because when I returned to Kyiv, I didn't understand what to do for almost a month. I tried to coordinate something on social networks, but you sit there and read the news. You are horrified by what is happening and you want to do something. This is such a therapeutic opportunity for many. That's why it's cool here. We are impressed by the people who return back. They are so motivated. You don't have to force anyone here at all. Because if you remember a project at school where it's a rule not to rework or not to do more than someone else, here is quite the opposite.
віддачі, наскільки вони вмотивовані. Тут взагалі не доводиться когось змушувати. Ну, ми, якщо там будемо згадувати шкільні суботники, там був принцип, аби не перепрацювати, аби не зробити більше, ніж хтось там.
People here come, grab axes and shovels and are so active. We are very satisfied with volunteers and their work. People donate money, but we haven't raised funds yet. We are waiting for the new cases with renovated houses. The next step will be construction. So we would need more money in the future and we'll raise funds more actively.
One of the destroyed houses is located on Papanivtsi Street. Its owner, Irina, tells her story again and again. The first missile landed into her car. The barn burned down next. and then it flew into the house, leaving nothing but walls.
Тут немного, приход был, двери сначала повыбивала.
A shell landed here and trashed the door. Then, when they came and checked our documents, they took away all our phones and told me not to go beyond my yard. They would shoot me if I do. Then they said they would start shelling. I did not hear the shelling, but I felt a blow and a crack. My husband said that the house was on fire. We ran out, and they just stood watching. 2 of their vehicles were behind our barn, and the numerous cars were in the neighborhood yards. We ran away until everything burned down. 5 Russians were already sitting in our house when we came back the next day. We said that we were the owners and had nowhere to go, nowhere to live. They let us stay, and we lived with them because we had no other options.
И мы с ними жили, потому что одеваться некуда было.
Volunteers are dismantling the rubble and will later help Irina rebuild at least a part of the house. Programmer Eugene volunteers on the road for the first time.
Ой, мне было скучно, я решил поработать.
I was sad and decided to get to work. Understanding where you can invest not only money but also your resources is meaningful. Now I know what war is. I see it in more detail than in pictures and photos. The main thing for me is that people are alive and we will restore houses.
Здание, я терпимо, можно восстановить.
Oleg, the cultural manager, joins Toloka for the 4th time.
Я без работы.
Now I'm unemployed. So when the guys call, I go to work here in the Chernihiv region. In January this year, before the war, we went on a trip with the girls who helped organize this event. The Repair Together and the Come With Me trip teams participated. We went together to Krasnoyarsk for the Malika holiday. There we all met and hit it off. Then the war began, and everyone was scattered around Ukraine.
І там ми всі познайомились, і от з Дімою теж. І там такі, в общем, знайшли спільну мову, а потім почалась війна, всіх розкидало по Україні, і коли вже звільнили Київ, потроху всі почали повертатись і шукати.
But when the Kiev region was liberated, everyone started coming back little by little and looking for something to do. Dima decided to organize some sort of movement to attract people who are looking for ways to be useful if they're not in the army or they don't have a job. So I joined them.
Або у них немає роботи. І от так сталося, що я такий, клас, давайте.
Here is how Oleg answers the question why he's here today.
Ти відчуваєш, що в тебе є потреба бути корисним.
You feel the need to be useful. It's like staying with your grandma in the village. You have to tune in to help. You can't sit idly. And in fact, the work here reminds me very much of my childhood. It seemed like I used to live in this house and didn't come to help after a disaster. We restore everything together, and there is a feeling that maybe it is my home and my family here. I feel compelled by this land. This land has brought us up, and now we have to rebuild it after the Russians decided to destroy it.
Відновити після того, як їх вирішили знищити росіяни.
Oleg communicates with locals a lot, and they often tell their stories. It is important for those people to share their experiences.
Ми тут сидимо поруч з повністю згорівшою.
Here we are next to a burned down church. It's scary and romantic at the same time. Okay, there is something to work with, a way to help somehow. We need to bring everything back. Not necessarily to the state it was before, but at least to the state of, okay, the peace will come and we'll fix everything. Exactly. And talking to people is an attempt to give them hope as well. Not even hope, but the understanding that there is a way forward.
Не надію, а це розуміння, що є дорога вперед.
When the young man first saw the consequences of the fighting, he was angry. Ukrainians feel that very often.
Я дуже злий був. Я досі дуже злий.
I was angry. I still am. Enraged. This kind of rage does not fade. Triggers follow me everywhere down the roads of Ukraine. Each house fuels my rage a little. I'm getting used to it. It's almost becoming my baseline. Helping others is my relief for the rage. For example, we came to this meadow last time and it was covered in cans. Just imagine that each Russian soldier opened his ration pack every day and threw the trash where he opened it. We picked it up and it got a little better. We've already had 4 community sweeps going on the 5th, and we're about to take all the garbage away. And this ability to do something in the real world with these discrete movements helps you curb some inner anger. It disappears for a while, but a walk around the village makes you see something that you did not see before, and the balance is off again.
Russian shells and missiles are falling every day on Ukrainian ground, and the civilian infrastructure is being destroyed every day. Ukraine is currently investing the majority of money on hostilities, and fundamental reconstruction will only take place after the end of such. However, people need to live somewhere, and where they can, Ukrainians save their homes, by their own or together with caring citizens.